I'd like to touch on the Aston Martin brand. We're a company that has now existed for 110 years, which makes us one of the oldest sports car marques on the planet. And in that period of time, we've been known for many things. We helped the world's most well-known spy from behind the wheel. We have recently had remarkable success with our return to Formula One. And also in the process, we've made some beautiful vehicles, and arguably we created the GT class, which is probably the most important segment of the sports car world. So with all that being said, we're entering into this amazing new next generation where we're producing products that we never really thought were previously possible. A 707 PS SUV that's got as much horsepower as the original Aventador, right? We've brought forth this next chapter of the Super GT and in a really remarkable fashion said goodbye to the manual transmission. Tear. And on top of that, we're making new friends all across the field. And one of those friends are the fine folks at Bowmore. They share a lot of the core values that Aston Martin holds near and dear. It takes hundreds and hundreds of hours to assemble one of our cars by hand. And very much in a similar fashion, Bowmore crafts Scotch. It's an artful thing. So on that note, and perhaps with a very nice glass in hand, I'd like to reintroduce you to Mr. James Neal, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the brand and this incredible collaboration and partnership. James.
Cheers. Thank you, Alec. This has been a lot of fun for the last 2.5 years that we've started collaborating, and I've gotten to know Alec and Umberto, and we've become dear friends, to be very honest with you. The stories, when we go back, and a lot of people go, why Aston Martin and why Bowmore? We talk about these cars being handcrafted. Well, our whiskey, of the 130 plus distilleries in all of Scotland, under 10 of them have their own malting floors on site. Well, that may not mean a lot to you at this moment, but to have your own malting floor means we take our barley, we spread 14 tons of barley on a massive floor, about the size of this area actually, and we'll turn that for 5 to 7 days to make sure we get exactly the right balance of that barley. It's a very painstaking, hand-driven thing. Still done the same way we would have made whiskey back in 1779, over 243 years ago now. So the two companies are iconic in the UK for being the best in their business. When we came along this, our first collaboration that we decided was, how do we share this history and what's the story? Well, the spy that Aston Martin made famous really became famous in 1964 with the brand Aston Martin in the DB5, as it was featured in which movie though? Goldfinger. Come on guys, let's go. If I may, Umberto. So Aston Martin came to us and they said, how do we celebrate that? 1964, Bowmore went from coal heating to steam heating, created some of the best liquid that we ever made. 1995, we made a bottle, and it was a part of a special edition called Bowmore Black, which is a 31-year-old single malt Scotch. So Aston Martin said, well, how many more bottles do you have of that? We're like, 27. Well, they said, give us those 27 bottles. And they rebottled it. When they rebottled it, they took the piston out of an Aston Martin DB5 car. Crystal decanter. All done in a bespoke glassmaker in North Scotland to create one of the most limited and rare bottles in Scotch history. We sold 2 of these in the Canadian market out of the 25 that we had sold globally. They retailed for about $85,000.
So what he's holding is actually a DB5.
This is a piston from a car.
From an actual Aston Martin that houses the actual liquid. It's a remarkable collaboration of craftsmanship.
This partnership has been really about, every time you get in an Aston Martin, I've had the pleasure of driving the DBX 707. And I can tell you this, it's a journey. And when you get to your destination, there's no better way to celebrate it with a Bowmore. And that's really how our two brands have come together, and we've built a beautiful partnership and beautiful friendships now out of it.
We experience the art of automobile. This is actually the tie-in with Autostrada. Autostrada is all about that art of automobile. We experience them as an experience, as in we fire up the engine, wait for this car to cool, the engine to idle down before we set off. It's a process on a nice Sunday afternoon. And in many ways, that's the synergy. You reach your destination, the process of opening the bottle, pouring yourself a glass, smelling it, tasting it, chewing it, all these things go together, and it creates this awesome experience, right? It's a life well lived. So, without any further ado, to a life well lived.
To a life well lived. Cheers.
Cheers,
So long,
guys.
gentlemen. Ladies, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Appreciate you guys.